You just got your asses whipped by a bunch of goddamn nerds. Nerds!
Three.
Welcome back to the Nerds Podcast. Thank you so much for all the loves and the likes. As always, we ask you to subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell to get our latest videos, of course, as we try to get to our first 100 subscribers. It would mean the world and the universe to us. Without further delay, 7 years we have waited for Charlie Cox to bring Daredevil to be fully integrated within the MCU. I almost choked on that as much as I'm excited about this to talk with you guys today. And please, after this conversation, give us some knowledge about what you feel, what you thought, so that we can actually have this conversation with our viewers. Daredevil, Disney Plus, finally it is here. And we are able to talk about it with you guys as you listen into our private conversations that we would never normally put out. And that's what the Nerds Podcast is really about. It's about us joining into things that we love and seeing it come to life. I got Pete and Co. I know you guys are chomping at the bit to have this conversation. And I didn't sleep the night before. It was like Christmas Eve, waiting for this to come out, waiting for this conversation to be had. And I gotta let the first one go to Co. With that beautiful background that you got there. So, Co, give me the first impressions of what we already now know to be the first 2 episodes that have been launched.
First impression, holy smokes. Just like Duel Pooba just said, thank you for not only bringing back the series, but bringing back all the actors. I am so stoked and excited. So let's go back. Let's understand why us 3 are so excited to talk about this. 7 years ago, Netflix ended up making this series called Daredevil. And it actually had great reviews. After watching it, I was like, wow, this is really spot on when it comes to like Daredevil himself. And grabbed me to just love the whole episode, right? Then they started bringing in characters like the Punisher, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, aka Power Man, and then they ended up doing the Defenders. While that was going on, the MCU was actually in full effect. So if you see shows of the Netflix Daredevil, you see that they were still talking about what was going on. If anyone's seen the Avengers movie, there was a big war that was going on in New York. They spoke about that, right? So they were kind of in tune, but playing the background, playing more of the smaller hero. Then Netflix decided that they were not going to renew the seasons. Oh, and excuse me, I didn't want to forget Jessica Jones to create the Defenders. So we have all these characters. They make the Defenders. And they had a good run. They ran for about 2 years or so, right? Iron Fist had 2 shows. Punisher had 2. Daredevil had 3. Jessica Jones had 2. And Luke Cage had 2. And it was a great run. But then Netflix decided, oh, we're not going to do this anymore. And it was a little heartbroken. Not as much because the MCU was in effect. So super excited about transitioning from the Netflix to now, we're just concentrating on what Marvel is doing. Marvel's Cinematic Universe, short for MCU. But then, could you believe it? They actually said, okay, we're going to do Daredevil. Now, I know as a comic book head, and my brothers here would know, yeah, eventually they're going to do a Daredevil. But, who are they going to use to play? Who's going to be the Kingpin? Who is going to take over for those, especially those 2 characters, which are like the main characters? And could you believe It couldn't be written any better. You ended up getting both actors back in full effect. They did so well in that Netflix episode that Marvel had to rewrite and do this thing correctly. This one is for us. This one's for the fans, for those times that we were watching and binging Daredevil and Friends during Netflix, and we're able to get them back. We jump right into it where we have a cameo with Kingpin in the Hawkeye series. And then we also have a cameo of Daredevil in the She-Hulk series. Surprisingly to me, holy smokes, they got the same actors. And then now, I gotta take a deep breath for this one because this one hit home.
It always does.
It sure does with this one. Because not only do they bring back Daredevil, but I do want to bring up a point. Right now, Christians and Catholics are celebrating Lent and the connection of this season. This is the Easter season for us. And this show coming out at the same time is absolutely genius for a Catholic or Christian of anyone that practices the religion to actually, and also likes comic books like myself, to have these two intertwined is just absolutely genius and gotta be spot on. Completely love it to set it off with just that. So I gave you the history and I gave you a moral part of this show coming out. Episode 1 started with a bang. And holy smokes, it set up the tone. I'll speak real briefly about how, again, I'm a New Yorker, born and raised in the BX borough, Mad Thorough. And I love the way the show takes me right to New York City. Again, first we saw it as Spider-Man, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man in an animated way, which was great. And then now we're seeing it again. This is what I loved about Stan Lee, that he didn't want to make fictional places, but actually use real places that I grew up in and about 8 million other people at the time grew up in. So overall, I like the show. Pete, what do you think?
So I'll first say, out of all these movies that we've been watching over the years, movies, TV shows, one of my favorite castings is Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin. That, to me, that was a home run for them. You know, you got Tony Stark. Everybody loves Tony Stark, and everybody has their favorites. But for me, that's one of the best ones they got is Kingpin. After like Cole said, 7 years, they kind of like the transition was nice. They showed all three of them back together. Everybody's happy, and then they went for the knockout and the first couple of minutes of the episode. It was awesome to see that they brought back all the same actors. I think a lot of the fans were worried about that, because even though it was on Netflix and it wasn't directly tied to the movies that we were seeing in the MCU, the Avengers, Captain America, Thor wasn't at the time directly connected to that, but a lot of the fans were worried about that, myself included, and I'm glad that they brought everybody back. So far, so good for Daredevil. They introduced they you see Bullseye is back, and that's like his main nemesis, and the look of the show, the look of everybody, to me, great way to kick off the show. Excited for episode 2 and the rest of the season, but for me, this was the way they brought it back after such a long layoff. Perfect for me.
Definitely worth the wait. Definitely worth the wait. I agree with you. I agree with you. And listen, I'm sure you guys both know this, right? As me as a lawyer, as Matt Murdock today, there were a lot of reshoots. There were a lot of cuts. There were a lot of scenes put in because I don't think they had like Pete said. I don't think they had the full cast on board when they first started filming this. Am I right? Am I saying that right?
I don't know about that. I just know that I just know that from a fan standpoint, I was worried about that. And then some of the actors were like, they were as well wanted to get back, to continue the story because it was, even though it got cut by Netflix, probably because of some other legal stuff that we don't know about, they wanted to get back at it because it was a good cast, it was a good story, and definitely a good main character.
Yeah, and watching it, I did see some of the things. A perfect example is in that part two. We'll talk about it. I did see some cuts that didn't seem natural, but you can tell that they just like Vanessa was added in late for this show. But I agree with you guys both. This is by far the best Marvel series in 2 episodes than any Marvel action live series I've seen so far. Again, I don't take away credit from WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Loki, who I have a special place in my heart for. This is by far the best, in my opinion, the best series so far when it comes to a Marvel series so far. And again, you to the Kid at Heart's opinion on it, I agree. If you want to watch the show, because it doesn't, the impact of the beginning of the show with Foggy doesn't have the impact if you don't watch the first 3 seasons of Daredevil. If you just watch Daredevil Born Again and you saw some guy die in the street, okay, that was his friend, that was cool. Daredevil is more than Daredevil. It's truly, because we see Matt Murdock more than we see Daredevil. This is a show about having to live with a persona, what your first identity is, and then going back to Spider-Man with great power. What comes with that responsibility that comes with it as well. And I think for the most part, they knocked it out the park with this Daredevil show. The cast is amazing. The details are amazing. I'm sure you guys saw, and we're going to get into this. This will be a major part of this conversation, is the opening fight scene. We already dropped Bullseye in there, being that he is, I think, top 5 villain for Daredevil. And I want to get into that right now. Being that we all love this series, I want to get into some meat and potatoes here. And I'm going to start with Pete. Let's talk about the first scene, them all back together. Everything's happy-go-lucky. We get back to Josie's. And for some reasons, I'm sure Cole and Pete remember this. It reminds me of the Carriage. You guys remember the Carriage where we used to go to drink after work?
Carriage House.
The Carriage House, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Josie's is our Carriage House. But I want to get into. I'm gonna hand this one off to Pete. Before we get into the dropping portion, because I just couldn't get over that scene with Foggy for the whole first part of that episode. The Foggy thing was just in the back of my mind. The fight scene to get there, I think when you hear the heartbeats during that fight scene, I swore I was listening to mine. But mine was going faster, not slower, when it came to that scene. So, Pete, break down for me the first Daredevil fight scene for you.
Well, even in the first series, we were kind of, it was going back to all the way back to season 1. It was kind of Daredevil and the Kingpin, and we were kind of waiting for, of course, when you speak about Daredevil, Kingpin is going to be in the conversation, but the villain who kind of is on his same level is Bullseye. So we kind of wanted to see that. And like I said earlier, with the transition from the 3rd season 7 years ago to now, this week, was perfect in the fact that they didn't let us wait for Bullseye. Bullseye was there, right there in the first episode, and they're going at it because of what he just did. So this is one of the, again, this is to me, this is his main nemesis because can he go toe to toe with Penguin? Yeah, I'm Penguin with Kingpin. Yeah, but it's more of, he's more of on the same type of level of with Bullseye and Daredevil. They're both on the same type of level to me. So watching them go at it is different because their fighting styles are somewhat similar, but then you see when he's fighting Kingpin, Kingpin's more brute strength and just trying to smash instead of having a particular fighting style. So it's always good to see Bullseye going against Daredevil for me. And of course they didn't disappoint in this first episode.
Cole, talk to me when you saw that.
Well, for me, I'm constantly going to continue talking about the Netflix series only because it was actually really good and worth watching. It's on Disney Plus right now if you want to go check that out. And see the backstory of where we're at today. On the Netflix series, they had this amazing introduction where you were able to see the world like Daredevil does, or AKA Matt Murdock. And you would see like this red paint, it's either red paint, red blood, whatever it was, shaping the city. When this show started, and by the way, which had also a great score, good tune to identify who Daredevil was in that Netflix series. So the intro itself, we talk about this. There are intros that you don't need to skip. And the Daredevil Netflix one was definitely one of them. You could let that rock and enjoy that. The visuals and the sound. Fast forward for Daredevil Born Again. They did the intro, and I was very curious. I was curious to know how they were going to do this. And what they ended up doing, which I thought was pretty cool, was shaping everyone in statues like the concrete of New York City, right? We usually call it like the concrete jungle, but everything is concrete. And they start breaking apart. And it shows me that Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil, is going through, his whole world is just collapsing. But at the very end, you see all the pieces come together and he rises and he's born again into a statue. So that intro alone got me hooked. What happens? We get right into it. You got Foggy and Paige. They're back together. They're at the bar. They're celebrating. They opened up their practice because they're lawyers. They're defense lawyers, actually. Then they created their own firm. And then what they ended up doing was, after all the drama, finally, they're at a point where they're helping the people from Hell's Kitchen, which they're located from, and they're also happy, which is great. Now, Matt and Paige had a little situationship, if you know what I mean. You know, a little situationship. And
I just want to know who was better, Paige or She-Hulk. Go ahead.
We'll get into that if you want.
Oh, weren't you there?
Well, in spirit.
So, well, everything is all well and dandy. When they're leaving the bar, and when Foggy looked at Matt and said, "I didn't tell you." And for those, I don't want to say everything so you guys can go out there and watch the show yourself. But when Foggy tells Matt, "Look, I didn't say anything because I didn't want to give you I didn't want to put the battery on your back. I didn't want to push you into going back into that vigilante life." What ends up happening is Bullseye and Daredevil have this 11-minute fight. So I applaud, once again, Marvel for not only bringing back the same characters, but also mimicking the the most famous thing, coolest thing that what made the series so cool was these 7-minute, 10-minute, 15-minute long runs. And for Hollywood, I could imagine how difficult that is to try not to take more than one take and have all that going on with your stuntmen and your actors is absolutely impressive. The choreography is on point. Seeing them two fight was absolutely top notch for me. That's to set it off, like Pooba and Pete was talking about. Setting it off where it's not only a leveled fight, but you as a person, you even going to check on Foggy, you coming back, you seeing the fight, then you going behind the closed doors, then they crashing through the closed doors, then they climbing up the stairs, then they get into the roof, and you think it's over, and then Daredevil comes out with a Spidey stance, might I say, and then ends up continuing fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting, and the whole beginning, once he lost his best friend, holy smokes, he throws him off the roof. He throws Bullseye off the roof.
Basura.
And I said, yes, this to me is Marvel putting everything the fans said, all the beauty of Netflix into one shot, one deal, great intro.
No, the details I saw when he picked up the cue ball and hit the lady with it, bouncing it off the wall. Did you know it was Bullseye the minute the paperclip hit the fly?
Of course.
Yeah,
That is a signature move for him. If you want to go see the Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner Daredevil, you will see the mid-credit or post-credit scene where Bullseye, which we were talking about the Penguin, go click on that link. We spoke about the Penguin show, which Colin Farrell played Bullseye in the Daredevil movie. And at the very end, he throws the safety pin right onto the fly. It seems like his signature when it comes to him being around.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie, because there's a part where he's climbing up the fire escapes, and they show the church behind them, and he fought Daredevil inside the church. So a lot of nods to give credit. It's kind of like the old Hulk showing up in a Hulk movie, right? In the sense that nature, like giving props to what came before and doing that. The fight scene was amazing. I was in it as a person that was been in martial arts for a long time. I'm critical of those type of scenes because I'm actually very intuitive. Okay, roundhouse, spinning hook kick, and everything was on point. I'm glad that Daredevil had armor on, because if not, he would have been dead. He looked like a cactus with as many knives as he had in him. But you have to realize he has the armor. I forgot the guy's name from when he created the armor in season 2, I think it was. But the armor was fantastic to hold up in such a manner. The amount of damage that they were doing made obvious sense. It was great. It was great. The one thing that I was confused about in that fight scene, and I'd love to see Daredevil swing. I know we talked about in our other show with the Spider-Man show that nobody swings like Spider-Man. Daredevil gave him a run for his money the way he was swinging. The only problem I had with that was I didn't know who was hooking it onto. That I didn't know, and so that's the only part I finally but I was okay with everything. It's MCU, so it was okay. So the fight was amazing.
I didn't care where he was swinging at, where it landed. He looked amazing. Let's talk about how when he first showed us in his suit with the church right behind him, I'm like, oh yeah. And if you really listen, right, because this show puts you in Matt Murdock's Daredevil's shoes, where it's actually better to listen to the show than it is to watch it. Listening to it on 5.1 Dolby surround sound really got me to feel what Matt Murdock was doing. But him
and the
sounds
of the city too. The sounds of the city were amazing.
Correct. Him using the Billy Club to move around the city, he looked great. Other ones, you don't really see him like what you call that when you it starts with a P when you jump it from one spot to another.
Parkour.
Oh, the sport?
Parkour.
Yeah.
parkour. You don't see much parkour when it comes to Daredevil. In this show, for me, there are moments when I watch these things and I have a screenshot. And that screenshot matches what I'm seeing on television or movie screen to what I saw in the comic book. And that his movement of moving around in the way he was in the city, I had no problem with it. He wasn't like Spider-Man the way, Spidey can be more acrobatic, but Daredevil looked great.
No, absolutely. I need to get into the question because my mouth dropped. I was taken back. What was your? I'll go to Cole and then to Pete on this one. Foggy's death. Foggy dies. You're hearing the heartbeat throughout the fight scene, and it's a pulse check on everything that we love and adore, and you could see that while Daredevil probably took more knives than he should have because he was focusing on that while trying to still fight Bullseye. But the minute that Paige took off her hands and you hear the heartbeat and you see Matt take off the mask because he knows it as well that Foggy's gone. My mouth dropped, but I want to hear from Cole first and then Pete.
Well,
What
I'll
happened?
be.
What happened to you guys? I mean, in that moment.
I'm gonna tell you. Spoiler alert. I had a feeling that was gonna happen. I was thinking to myself, going back to those Netflix scenes, you still have Marvel still has control on what they want to do, right? And with losing Foggy at that moment, you want to show how Daredevil hangs up the cape, how he hangs it up. In order to do that, it got to be dramatic. When I saw it, I had a feeling he was going to die, so it wasn't too much of a shocker to me. And I felt a little bad, but again, for me, it's just set the tone for where we're going with this series. And when Foggy passed away, it was like somebody got to die. It's just the truth. What about you, Pete?
It was a gut punch because again, like we said, it started off with a bang. These guys brawling, going up the steps, crashing through walls, doing all this, and then it ends with Daredevil just tossing Bullseye off a three-story roof. But this was part of that dramatic effect that I think they used to kind of like pull us in to say, okay, this is legit. Like I gotta see what happens after this. Foggy's dead. I gotta see how they come back from this. So it was a gut punch. I do agree for dramatic effect, somebody's got to die. It's a TV show, but like I said, it's more like for me, it's always I feel like that's to kind of lure us in so we stay, because they can lose us at the same point and be like, oh, this shit sucks, and then we don't end up watching episode 2. But for me, that wanted me to watch even more because not because I'm a fan, but what's going to happen next. This he was kind of like the glue. I was his boy. They went to school together. They started to practice together, and as like Cole said, Karen, Foggy, and Matt, they all got all their names are on the sign now, and now it's gone. Foggy's gone, and we got to see how they pick up the pieces after that in episode 2.
It's like they
Yeah,
rewrote. It's like they rewrote. They still took away certain things that the Netflix plot had going on, and they said, "All right, we're gonna do this Marvel." Unfortunately, Foggy, you got to go. So because once you kill a character, that character can't come back, right? Well,
Don't say
no,
that.
not in the Daredevil
Yeah.
series. They brought back Elektra about 1,000 times. So
very good.
yeah,
Yes.
so just again going back to the previous Daredevil series before Born Again, nothing is what it seems to be sometimes. So Bring back Foggy will be my first chant on this podcast. Bring back Foggy. Foggy first. Foggy first. So the next thing we get the kind of MCU version of 1 year later. I'm not sure if you guys noticed it when they said one and then it said year later.
Yeah.
It was very much within the MCU portion of it, and we get this new practice. We get a lot of different things. A view of Matt Murdock post this, and I thought it was super cool how he keeps Foggy's thing going into that courtroom. I thought he was going to go bananas in that courtroom because even after the 3-story fall, Dex still lives. Now, the question is, because we saw him last getting his spinal surgery, we get adamantium, of course, introduced in Captain America, and maybe it was strategically done that this came after that, right? But do you think he has an adamantium spine like the way he does in the comic book? Pete first.
Could be. I mean, again, I at first I was a little disappointed because I'm like, damn, they killed Foggy, but okay, don't kill Bullseye. You know what I mean? Like I was more worried about Bullseye than Foggy. I will be honest. But
No, that's fine. I was on the Foggy train. Like
Bullseye is
Foggy.
cool. Bullseye is dope. Foggy's cool, but he's not Bullseye. So I was like, ah, man, they threw him off the building and he's fucking dead too. But thank God he's not. And again, because it's just it's Foggy's part of Daredevil lore, but so is Bullseye. I think they're equally important, but I would prefer to keep Bullseye around because if Foggy's there, okay, yeah, you know, he's got his friend there. There's really no story there. If Bullseye's there causing trouble, then that's a little bit more interesting if Foggy's there. But if that would be cool if they were able to, you know, implement adamantium into this show too, with you know the fact that that's how he survived that fall because he's got an adamantium spine. Then okay, no wonder he got up from that. And you know, I loved how they had him in the courtroom with his hands tied, but not cuffed. That he was tied up, like he was not moving them hands for anything.
Well,
But
he could flick a booger and kill you. So
well,
even his fingers were tied up.
well, that's what I'm saying. He was not doing anything. But yeah, that would be great if they did. Another way to connect everything is if he had adamantium.
What you think, Kid at Heart?
His yeah, you know, when I'm watching it with my wife, and she goes, "He's alive." I said, "Baby, it's fantasy. Whoever writes this is either going to kill someone off or keep someone there." I'm with Pete on this. I'm glad they kept him. I think Bullseye plays a huge role in Daredevil. In Daredevil, not even Matt Murdock, but in Daredevil's part. This time, it kind of affected Matt Murdock because Matt Murdock had to take the stand. I thought Matt Murdock's speech was pretty cool. How he was saying that there was going to be no justice for Foggy only because we could never get him back. You know, it was very touching. And with Bullseye, yeah, his hands are lethal, completely lethal. If you can rewatch hundreds of times or even try to put things in slow-mo when you see in that first initial fight with Daredevil, I mean, everything and anything that Bullseye grabs, he's going to be able to hit you with pinpoint accuracy, which I think is such a dope, you know, superpower, let's call it. That I and then his name is Bullseye. Like, how fresh is that? You know,
Amazing.
they sometimes the most simplest way to go about things is the best. And you know, back then they were coming up with these character names, and they say, "Oh, this guy. What about a guy that never misses? Let's call him Bullseye." Oh, beautiful. They were probably at the bar playing. And I'm saying they, like Kirby and Stan Lee, they're at the bar freaking playing darts. And it was like, oh man, you'll be cool. A character like this guy. But where are we gonna put him? Let's put him with the man without fear. And it just works out. So I'm not 100% sure if the adamantium is part of him in the comic books, but
It is.
yeah. So if it is,
Yeah.
then yeah, they're gonna have to somehow kind of explain it, at least for my wife and for those out there that's like, get out of here. He threw him off the roof after all that fighting and everything, and he still survived. Just keep in mind, this is still fantasy, but the great thing about DC and Marvel and all these other comic book shows is that you can bend reality just a little bit and play it to your favor. So if you could look at it with an open mind, you can see, okay, all right, to Pete's point, can't just kill off Bullseye. I mean, it would have been a dope death, but by all means, keep him. And since they brought up adamantium in the Captain America movie,
this next question goes to you, Cole.
There should go.
And I want a prediction. Here's a prediction question. Do we see Karen Page again?
Spoiler.
Do we see her again?
I believe so. Like
she kind of broke up with him. She's like, "Here's your little horn."
Yeah, she left, but she went to, where did she go? To San Francisco, right?
Yeah,
and we already have characters over there.
Yeah, Shang-Chi and who's the other one that's over there?
Ant-Man.
Ant-Man.
And we got She-Hulk over there as well. And we also, upcoming for this year of 2025, is going to be Wonder Man. So, yes, I do see her maybe playing a role. If she doesn't come back in the MCU, then my true prediction came out where they were like, okay, we'll bring these two characters in just to not let the audience feel that we deserted them. Kill them off, kill one off, send the other one away. It's over, and we're moving on with this. I'll still be fine with that. But I do believe she will pop up again and actually become Matt Murdock's true love, because man, he be my man's a playboy too. He should be Playboy instead of Daredevil.
I have a psychiatrist that might debunk that, but what about you, Pete?
Yeah, I think she comes back. Just the fact that we had 39 episodes of those three, Foggy, Matt, and Karen Page, and and she was a fan favorite as well. But absolutely, she comes back. In what capacity, I don't know, but I do believe we'll see her again in the series.
I'm going to fast forward a little bit on this. I'm glad that Matt is still practicing law. I'm glad that Cherry is his investigator. But I want to get into the conversation of Mayor Fisk. And there's a whole series of comic books for Mayor Fisk. But that moment when Matt Murdock, I think he was cooking, and again, because he hears so much, and he just blocks that out, and he hears Fisk saying, "I'm running for mayor." I could feel his hair stand during that scene. It is a worse nightmare to see an arch enemy rise above all. We kind of see this a little bit in Penguin as well, that rise to power, those things of that nature. So what do you guys think about the most famous scene, I think, of that outside of the Foggy and fight scene in that first episode is what I call the heat. And the heat is Al Pacino and De Niro scene, sitting down and talking to each other. That is exactly what I saw within those first two. I'll go to Pete first on this one. What was your take on them sitting down for breakfast?
Like I said earlier, this is one of my favorite castings that Marvel has done, is Kingpin. This guy is amazing. This is the same guy who blew his brains out in Full Metal Jacket. This guy is an amazing actor. Like, he's really good. And like I said earlier, everybody was kind of hoping they brought the same people back. I was really hoping for him to come back, and especially seeing him in a Spider-Man movie. That's what I really wanted to see. Hopefully we get to see that down the line. But it's a great way to, it's a great comparison to compare it to Pacino and De Niro and Heat. That's a great comparison because that's exactly what happened. They know they're sitting across from their nemesis, so to speak. But it's chill because they're talking. But they're kind of throwing out little threats here and there, like, yo, don't get started again because I'll have to do this. And, if you do this, I'm gonna have to do this. But yeah, very cool scene to kind of close out episode 1.
How about you, Cole?
Oh man, Wilson Fisk, uh, the Kingpin, which he's trying to stay away. I like the angle and the story that's going upon him. For those that don't know, like I said prior, not only did he first appeared in the Hawkeye series, he also ended up appearing in the Echo series on Disney Plus as well. So you'll be able to continue following his story. The interaction that he has with Matt Murdock, especially knowing who he is, whether he's a vigilante or a lawyer. Holy smokes! It blows my mind because, like Pete said, that this actor, those twitches that you see in his hand, and when he looks or when he pauses before he speaks, gives you that unique Kingpin style. I now like read about Kingpin a lot, but the first time I heard a voice from Kingpin was in the Spider-Man show. That Fox, the Spider-Man animated series that Fox did back in the 90s. And in my mind, I was like, okay, I can hear this from it being Wilson Fisk. But in the show, this actor actually, I think, just took upon this role and made it him. So it might seem effortlessly what he's doing, but this guy is just a A-lister for me when it comes to taking this role and taking this role very seriously. The interaction between him and Matt are so personal that like I like the part when Matt was like, yo, what's up? You look good, man. Lost a little weight, gained a little muscle. What's going on? And Kingpin goes, I'm not here to spar with you. And I love that. I found that hilarious because if you watch the growing of Daredevil in the Netflix series, you understand why that line right there was actually pretty funny. And then when even seeing Kingpin laugh, like kind of threw me aback a little bit because I'm not used to this. So this actor, when he comes upon and talks about his mentor, that someone that he tried to mentor, which was Echo, and Matt goes, "Didn't she shoot you in the face?"
Yeah.
And he starts laughing. I was like, I'm not used to this Kingpin, but he didn't take me away in the sense like I didn't see him letting his guard down. When he laughed about it, I was like, oh my gosh, he's gonna swing on Matt right now. So that whole scene being that it was cordial, it was just, hey, I'm here to let you know that if I'm speaking for Matt, to let you know, I don't trust you, and if you cross the line, I will be coming after you. And then what the Kingpin said, which is I thought it was brilliantly written. He goes, "Who's asking me? Is it Matt Murdock or the other guy?" And right there and then, I thought once Matt left, Kingpin was gonna, I thought he was going to like bang on the table, but he didn't. He just trying to control his composure because I guess Kingpin has a bigger picture that's going on. So I thought it was very, very interesting.
Guys, I think that's going to wrap up for us on this first episode. There's so many things that I want to get into as well, but that also goes upon your comments and your likes and the discussions that you guys want to have. Like the whole Vanessa thing, right? We have to discuss that as well sooner or later. But I think we'll get that into episode 2 because episode 2 we'll focus on some of those Wilson Fisk intimate more moments. I wanted to thank again everyone for watching. You guys are amazing. Thank you for all the love. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for all the subscriptions that we actually have as well. I can't tell you that it actually we kind of focus on to make sure that we give you what you need, what you want to discuss. As nerds at heart, we actually want to make sure that you are enjoying the show. For Pete and for the Kid at Heart Co. Again, Daredevil, Matt Murdock in the house. I want to again just say, please support this show and support the Daredevil show, because we want to see more of those things as well when it comes to the MCU and maybe the DCU. But as long as we can keep superhero shows alive, we'll have them in our lives. Thank you so much, and ring that bell, hit the subscribe button, and thank you so much from the nerds.
We will return.
The worst episode ever.